Time now for our live on live interview devoted today to Paris, city of light, city of love, city more recently of terror attacks and air pollution. However you see it, this city continues to fascinate and is the subject of numerous books, particularly by English language writers, from Ernest Hemingway's Movable Feast back in the 1920s to the more recent Adam Gopnik's Paris to the Moon. But let's make way today for a female writer. Canadian writer Lily Heise has fallen under Paris's charm, and she's our guest today. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, your recently published book is called Paris, je t'aime, maybe. Paris, I love you, maybe. So there's a bit of a rider on this one. It's romantic fiction at its most romantic. Here's a little quote. Our Côte du Rhône was flowing as rapidly as the river of the wine's namesake, and after a second bottle, it was time to leave to catch the metro. This time, it was decided. I wasn't going home alone. Oh, this is partly autobiographical, is it not, Lily?
Yes, that's true.
Did you go home?
Well,
alone?
I did not go home alone on that specific occasion. So a lot of things have happened to me since I've been in Paris, and I like to sort of think I stumble into romantic misadventure, and this was one of them.
So it didn't end up with...
Yes, I haven't actually seen said romantic contender in a number of years, but that's the maybe. I think in the book there are lots of maybes.
Now, we encounter a number of amorous suitors in this book. You've said from policemen knocking at your door to elegant and married counts to renowned journalists and rebellious rock stars. You've got about as your character, La Tigresse, the tigress. You've explored many of Paris's, ups and downs and venues. And
Absolutely. And in fact, most of it happens when I least expect it. And I think a lot of interesting things in life, that tends to be the case. And so I'll be minding my own business, and then I'll enter into this quite unbelievable and surprising situation. And it leads to all kinds of love and disappointment as well. So it can go both ways.
What are the best places for meeting someone in Paris? Is the metro a good one?
The metro's not bad. I like to say that picnics along the Seine. So unfortunately,
and all
it's
this
not the
Paris
season
plage
for
thing that we get during the summer. That's a good
Paris
one.
plage and various festivals, events, bars. I do have to say, bars are still a good place to meet people. I think the French are a lot less timid at approaching people, and so if they feel that there's a connection, they do take their chance.
Like, you've lived in France for over 15 years, so you know this country well. You're not sort of just flying through it. What made you want to write this kind of fiction, as you said yourself, romantic misadventures in the city of love?
Well, I think that, first of all, my book is a little surprising. And so it's not what you expect. It's not a happy ever after ending, not to give anything away, but as you'll see, there are numerous stories throughout. And I think that it shows a very realistic side to romance in the city. Passions can be sparked very quickly and can be very exciting, but then they can fizzle out just as quickly. And so my love for Paris is not like that. I think that the city is exciting and vibrant, and that's what made me want to live here. And occasionally when I leave the city and I come back and I get out of the metro, which of course is maybe not the nicest place to be, but you exit the metro and you're surrounded by these gorgeous Paris buildings and cafes, vibrant with life, and you're just in this wonderful environment, a wonderful city.
So it's still conducive, that the architecture is still very much conducive, you think, to at least dreaming of love, if not finding it.
Absolutely. And I think there's also, even though, as you have said, the past few years have been a little bit hard on Paris, there still is a joie de vivre. People go out, people do things. And I think that it's that energy as well as the environmental surroundings.
So is it easier, for example, I mean, you're from Canada, but if I think of a city like New York, we're always hearing stories about how difficult it is to meet people in New York. Of course, we had the Sex and the City series, which has been so very successful on TV, recounting some of these adventures or not. But here in Paris, it has this reputation as the city of love. You still find it's quite user-friendly as a place for finding people, talking to people?
Absolutely.
Parisians are still quite open?
Absolutely. You could be sitting on a park bench and perhaps someone might come up and talk to you. Or I was walking by a cafe last summer and this man, I must have caught his eye, and he gallantly jumped out of his chair and implored me to have a drink with him. So,
really?
Yes.
How do you do it? What were you wearing? I mean, did you try and catch his eye or?
No, I think, well, in my case, I do think I exude an aura of openness and friendliness. So that is actually probably part of it. However, I do think that people here are more compelled towards love and are less afraid, and there are less social restrictions to that. And I think in a place like New York or in London, even Anglo-Saxons tend to be a little bit more reserved and aren't quite as daring.
Are we borderline harassment here, though? Because there's also been stuff said about the wolf whistling that you can get here in not just in Paris, but in France generally. It's not considered that much of a big deal to wolf whistle. There's even been situations of that happening in Parliament, which shocked a lot of people. And some Anglo-Saxons here have complained about what they see as the sort of leery looks that you can get from men here. Have you also found there's a downside to this?
There can be a downside. And unfortunately, I have to say it does depend a little bit on where you are in the city. So, of course, I live in Montmartre, but just next door, there are some neighborhoods that I tend to cross the street sometimes and walk on the other side. And I have been followed before, and it got quite uncomfortable. So it can unfortunately be a negative side as well.
So you've got to know the city, basically.
Absolutely.
Know, how far you can go in being this sort of tigress.
Yes, and you do have to be careful about how you smile and engage with people. And the example I just gave you, I was doing nothing, actually, just being myself. So if you do want to avoid unwanted attention, it is better to look straight ahead and be a little bit more serious, which is unfortunate if you are an open and friendly person. Yeah. So you just have to learn to know the rules.
Now, you, such is your knowledge now of the dating business or how to find love, that I think you've set up a dating online service, and you're going to be sort of using then some of your know-how to, as we move towards Valentine's Day. Tell us a bit about what kind of advice you're offering people.
Sure. So on my website, I have a website as well named after my first book, je-t'aime-me-neither.com. And on there, I actually have learned that people started asking me my advice and also wondering what to do in Paris. And so I started writing articles on romantic restaurants, bars, offbeat things to do, real things to do. We're not talking about going and kissing by the Eiffel Tower or anything like that. And so I've also started to do dating events. And so this is a way to help meet new people in a comfortable environment. And some are small, quite intimate events around a cocktail. And some are larger events that involve a little bit more dancing and interacting. But we also try to do fun activities that allow you to engage and talk to the other attendees. And so we have several coming up for around Valentine's Day, and they should be a lot of fun and a nice way to meet new people.
Are we talking mainly about the expat community, so maybe foreigners, or do you also attract French people who they themselves are trying to meet other French people or other foreigners, whatever?
It's actually a mix. So the French people who do come to the events are more open-minded, and they would quite like to meet someone from somewhere else. And so I'd have to say they're probably 70% expats and then 30% French people who speak some English at least a little bit.
So it's a chance also to improve your French, I guess,
maybe,
for some of these people.
Of course.
Yeah, you've got to mix these two things because, I mean, it is important, isn't it, to be able to speak French if you're hoping to strike up a meaningful relationship with someone.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it's great. I think Paris does provide the opportunity to have some really meaningful cross-cultural relationships or even friendships.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the most memorable moments that you relate in your book.
Oh, well.
The ones that won't need to be like bleeped out, of course.
Sure. Well, I think that the end of the book, the last third, is actually really quite exciting. It's with the rock star. And I go and meet him discreetly in Spain or in Brussels. And
is he married?
No, he wasn't married, but I'll leave a little bit of a surprise for the end there. I don't want to give it all away. But I think that I chose to live life, and I chose to just be a little more daring myself, because I can be a little bit more reserved. And so I really kind of let loose and just went with it and had a really great time. But I knew that there would be an end, and that there was, in a way, because he lived across the world, that it would be hard for things to carry on. But a lot of very surprising situations. As you mentioned, there was this count who courted me, and he was married. And so you're put in a difficult situation. He was quite tempting. He invited me to Tahiti and the Maldives and Egypt on these exotic trips. But I, it was
Did you go?
No, I did not. So I upheld my morals. But
that was because he was... Yeah, was that because he was married?
It was because he was married, and also because I didn't feel I would also fit into with the counts and the duchesses with their big hats at the horse races. And so, I had these various opportunities, but I still wanted to stay true to myself.
So the million-dollar question, Lily Heise, is, have you met your Mr. Right here in Paris?
Well, you'll just have to read the book.
You're such a good publicist. Many, many thanks for talking to us here today on Paris Live PM. Canadian writer Lily Heise, and a reminder that your recently published book is called Paris, Je t'aime, maybe, and you can get more information all about that and about your website and your matchmaking activities on your website. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.